And I've
Mm,
always been someone that had like 5 or 6 jobs on the side. And like
same.
I can't just like stick to one thing. I'm gonna get bored, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm doing these like creative ventures on the side. And I'm like, I just got to the point where I was like, you know what, this is going very well. I have,
Hmm.
extra income, and I really think I can just do this.
Welcome to Mindset Mastery Podcast, where we explore the intersections of motherhood and entrepreneurship. I'm your host, Julissa Edwards, and in each episode, we're diving into mindset, emotional regulation, and the real stories of mom entrepreneurs navigating both business and family life. Let's get into it. All right, you guys. So we are here with a part two with Sarah. Part one was just our original meeting was just so good that we said we have to bring her back for another part. And I'm super excited. I think we're going to be diving into topics that are not always so openly spoken about. And I think it's going to be a great conversation. So, Sarah, welcome back.
Thank you. It's so good to be back. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right, girlie. So we learned all about your beautiful, complex, massive roles that you play in your career and in motherhood, juggling quite a large family, right? Four kiddos?
Yes, 4 busy
Yes.
kiddos.
Yes. Okay, so kind of taking off where we left off, you're someone who has a very strong academic background with multiple degrees. How did you navigate that mental journey going from traditional professional path to embracing entrepreneurship?
Yeah, so actually in my case, I feel like my background and what I did academically kind of matches this path anyways. I always knew since I was like 10 years old and put on a play for my class that I'd written that I wanted to go into the creative arts.
So
And
cute.
I
I
wanted
love
to be
that.
a writer. Yeah. And so then
Mm,
as I got a little bit older, I knew that I wanted to go into media arts and specifically publishing, which is a non-traditional path, right? So I was so excited about this. I'm like, I have no idea how to do it, but I guess I'll go into school as an English major at first. And so that's what I did. And I'm not even sure if it was just that I wanted like a broader degree, or I had like 20 books in my backpack every day and I just didn't want to carry them around anymore because that was before computers. And I know I'm aging
okay.
myself right now, but not before computers, but before everything was on digital
On a
screens,
laptop for
right?
school. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I had to lug this backpack around. Oh my goodness. And I decided to switch to business at that point, but I still wanted to own a publishing company. So I kind of switched my shifted my mindset to going from like, I want to be a writer and be an editor to owning a publishing company. So I'm going to go into business. And I
Mm,
completed my degree in business and then got my MBA. And so that path in and of itself, promotes being a high level business person in some ways, right? And
mm-hmm,
thinking creatively and outside of the box. Of course, there's the accounting and finance and all that stuff that I had to get through, which is real fun, but not
mm-hmm,
necessarily up my alley. But it teaches you to be a successful business leader. And then when I got out in the
mm-hmm.
field, I spent a number of years in publishing. I was fortunate enough to do that. Um, and I think it was the combination of both of those, like the business background and the publishing background, and kind of moving up in the publishing field that made me really
Mm,
realize I could be an entrepreneur. Like this is something I can do. And I've
mm.
always been someone that had like 5 or 6 jobs on the side. And like
Same.
I can't just like stick to one thing. I'm going to get bored.
Yeah.
So I'm doing these like creative ventures on the side. And I'm like, I just got to the point where I was like, you know what, this is going very well. I have,
Mm-hmm.
extra income, and I really think I can just do this. I
Yeah.
did get a very real like push to go into it when I reunited with my high school sweetheart, and we got back together. And he had 2 kids, and I had 2 kids, and I had to like manage the logistics of that, taking them to school and
Mm-hmm.
everything. So that was my very real push to be like, okay, now's the time, and I
Mm-hmm.
feel like my life has been like that in general. Like these things just kind of show up and
Mm.
they're like, okay, it's now or never,
It's
and I
now or
get
never.
pushed. So there was that too. But
Mm.
yeah, I just had to navigate my way
Ooh.
around it after the 9 to 5.
Here's a good question. So I think so two things that you said that I want to hone in on. It's now or never, right? And I think like a crossroad, right? Like I think a lot of people
Mhm.
sometimes fall into that. And I wonder, right? Like what is the difference from someone who says now and like maybe later?
Yeah. So will later ever be there, right? We can't predict that later is going to be there. Um, I do say, or I acknowledge my own experience that that kind of has been the case for me somewhat, but I've always felt like I've been a little bit of a risk taker, anyways. I come from an entrepreneurial family. I've seen how
Hmm.
this can happen and be successful. And
Yes.
so, yes, that final shove was like, okay, it's got to be today, right? But
Hmm.
there was
Hmm.
planning that went into that too. And I knew like this was going to happen. I have to believe in myself enough for this to happen. If
Yeah.
we're saying, maybe later, that's a fear based thought. And
Response,
mostly,
1000%.
right? So, have confidence in yourself, your skill set, right? If you're getting the mental push to do it, there's a reason for that. And just
Hmm.
go for it. Go for it. And if it doesn't work out, then go back to what you were doing before. That's always an
Right.
option too.
Right. So a couple of things here. So earlier you were talking about like I resonate so much with your story because I know I've always had multiple jobs on the side just for more income. Growing up, I just like to be busy. Well, I think a lot of people can relate to that. And I also like very much enjoy learning about different professions. So I would have like I always knew that I wanted to be a therapist, and so I was in school on the 6 year track to get my master's. Like that was set in stone, but as I was getting my degree, I was doing everything under the sun, right?
Mhm.
And
Yep.
I loved it. For me, it felt fun. It didn't feel serious. It's like, here's a fun way to make money. Um,
Yes.
and I
Hmm.
would also, my observing mentality and brain would just pick up everything of like, wow, that's so cool. Like I used to work at the Cheesecake Factory
Oh,
and
nice. Oh, that's dangerous. That would be dangerous for me.
it was so delicious. It was so
Yeah,
good.
it's so good.
I was so young. I would think I was like 19 when I was serving there, and so I wasn't legally able to drink yet. But I remember all these customers coming in. They'd be like, "What do you recommend?" And my brain, I
Oh,
just could
right.
not remember the whole. I could not, and I just remember saying like, "Oh, I can't drink yet." So that would be my excuse of like, I don't know.
Right.
But the
They have a
cheesecake.
huge menu. They have a
A
huge menu.
huge
Yeah.
40-page menu. And
Yes.
when I was there, this was almost 15 years ago. When I was working there, they would roll out a new menu every 6 months.
Oh, no. Seriously? That would
Yes,
be so
40 pages that you
hard.
would have to memorize. Yeah, anyway, it was I remember I loved their process. Like I feel like they took their server so seriously that it did hire
Mm.
the caliber of like service that you would give to your customer. And
Right.
so anyway,
Mhm.
just to share, like I remember us having team meetings and I've worked at other restaurants before. So
Mhm.
it would be a very like your shift starts at, I don't know, 3, you come in at 2, we have our team meeting and they were literally and this is in context of like everything can make you a better business owner, every experience. They would
Right.
literally train us
Absolutely.
how to upsell
Okay.
your
Mhm. Right.
Yes, which was not common for servers to know how to do that, right? So it would be like, hey, we just pushed out a new cappuccino. It goes really well with the banana cheesecake.
Um,
Yes, if your
they still
client
do
orders,
that. We just went there like a month ago and they
oh
did that.
yeah,
So that's funny now.
okay,
I'm
so
seeing
they're
the
still
things.
doing it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All
Yes,
coming
and
through.
when I was my 19-year-old self, I didn't really think anything of it, to be frank. I was like, oh, okay, they want us to sell this and that, no big deal, you know?
Mhm.
But now I'm like, oh my God, no, they were training us. And
Yeah.
they had a system, talk about SOPs. Okay,
Mhm.
the servers come in, they're the front line, right? They're the ones talking to the customers, or we're going to make sure that they are ready, and have some type
Mhm.
of, I don't want to say script, but it was very organized. Um,
Sounds
and
like
it was
it.
great. So, random memory that you made me trigger back there. But I've had so many different jobs and I like flip-flopping. I like learning about this industry and that
Yes.
industry. And
Mhm.
so when I went into entrepreneurship in 2020, a big revelation that came to me was like my jumping, beautifully chaotic brain can always do something different in my own
Yes. I
business.
love that. Yes.
Oh,
100%.
yeah.
Um,
So just if, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead. I'm listening.
I was just
I'm
gonna
just my
say
brain's just
different.
going in different directions now with what you're
Oh,
saying.
please, I want to hear. I'll finish my thought though. I was just gonna say that I think there's so many positives that come to entrepreneurship that I will say maybe not everyone always thinks about it that way. I know that I'm lucky
Mhm.
enough that my brain naturally thinks that way, kind of
Yeah.
optimistically and
Mhm.
giddy and excited for new things like that. But to your statement earlier, there is a lot of fear that resides in individuals when taking a new leap or a new direction that will make them stay where they're at instead of another direction.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I think we just see that in a lot of ways in corporate America, anyways. As far as like moving up the ladder and taking a higher level position and getting used to it, there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people that will pass up those opportunities and they're amazing at what they do because they're more comfortable just doing what they do. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that does exist kind of everywhere, regardless of what you're doing. But like you, I really resonated with that. I've just always been very curious. I've always wanted to
Mm-hmm.
do things. I think I might have mentioned this last time, but I don't, know for sure. But I kind of have always been an entrepreneur, even when I was like
Mm-hmm.
10 years old, right? 9 years old. I remember going over to my friend's house and stealing his mom's like two loaves of bread that she had in the house and the peanut butter and the jelly and like secretly making 40 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and putting them in a radio flyer wagon and walking around the
Oh,
neighborhood trying to sell peanut butter and jelly sandwiches like the most
I love
random
that.
thing, right? And I do remember like kind of getting in trouble for that too because we took all our bread, but side note. um but yeah, I've always been like I used to draw, and then every time my family came over I wanted to sell my pictures. Like that's just kind of always been my thing.
Mm,
But so I think that is partially like a natural thing for some entrepreneurs. But again, like you said, to your experience that you've had, is everything builds upon that. Everything. All
mhm,
those part-time
mhm.
jobs that you think, okay, I'm here, and again, I'm going to age myself, I'm making $5 an hour. you know you're still learning the processes, you're still learning how to
Yeah,
do customer service, you're
yeah,
upselling, like you said. And all of
yes.
that is very much needed in any kind of business ownership. So
Mhm,
yeah,
mhm.
I think I had 22 part-time jobs before I went to college.
Mm.
There's something wrong with me, seriously.
No,
But
now I'm like, I should count. Listen, I've had so many jobs, so many jobs. But okay, so yeah, you're not dating. My first job, they paid me 750 an hour, so we're right there.
okay. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. I
And
appreciate that.
yes, absolutely. And I mean, that's also like, it's amazing too. So the journey of it all, right? Um, I spent a lot of time interviewing entrepreneurs that, or going on connection calls, I should say,
Mhm.
wondering if we're a good match for each other as, client and coach. And I don't know if I shared this on the prior episode. I don't think I did, but um, we kind of were talking about how corporate, also like academia, like your traditional routes of climbing the corporate ladder and going to school, getting your degrees, it's a system, right? And it's not a bad thing, but it is a system, and systems have programming,
Mhm.
things that we need to follow in order to get, to the end of the goal here, right? If it's
Right.
academia, they usually want us to get your, finish graduate high school, go to college, get your degree,
Mhm.
go get your master's. Like I remember when I was getting my bachelor's, and this is not to make anybody feel bad about having a bachelor's at all, but I remember feeling very insecure leaving with only a master's. And that was just the
Mhm.
the energy that I was surrounded by, that like everybody was getting their masters. I remember my brother is older than me by 6 years, and when he had graduated college, we went through America was going through oh my
Is it the
God.
recession?
The
Recession?
recession. Yes, the
Hmm.
recession. Thank you.
Yeah.
And him and a bunch of his colleagues that graduated were not able to get jobs, and that scared the crap out of
Oh,
me,
yeah,
you
I bet.
know? And I was
Hmm.
like, oh my God, I need to have a master's when I leave college kind of mentality,
Yeah.
you
Hmm.
know? And so I'm not saying that that is truth. Has a master's gotten me far? Absolutely. In
Hmm.
experience, not in pay, to be frank, just to be frank,
Right.
right?
Right.
As a
True. Yeah.
therapist, yeah, as a therapist, we weren't getting paid much. It was like 50K for the year when I started. My first job as a big girl, like a big girl job, I got
Hmm.
contracted at 48K a year, which,
Yeah.
hey, I'll
Hmm.
take it. I mean, I gladly took it. I was excited. I had champagne, like I was very happy.
Yeah.
But in hindsight, looking at that salary range for a master's was very, very low.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I went back and got my counseling master's later on, but I did have my MBA. And I will say, after the bachelor's and after the MBA, I was not making all that much money either. I mean, I think, especially since I started my career in Chicago, and
Mm.
this is a long story in itself, but my friend basically came to visit for the weekend and stayed like over a week with me and convinced me
Hmm.
to come back to Michigan. So I think that was her secret goal the whole time. Um, but I was still, after the bachelor's, only making and publishing like 30 grand a year. That's where you
That's
start.
insane.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God.
And I did
S-
not, I stayed in publishing. So even after the MBA, I didn't, I think the highest I got paid was moving, and this was moving up, in 7.5 years, is $55,000. That was another push for me to be like, okay, I got to do something
Yeah.
different for myself. Um, I
Yeah.
enjoyed it. I loved every minute of it. I still love the industry, and I'd like to do something with that later
Mm.
again, down the line. But
Mm.
we got to be compensated too, right? And
Yes.
you have the skill set. It's like, go for it.
Absolutely. Okay, this is a good pivot point. So look at this. So I'm just looking at it like helicopter view. We go to school, you work so hard, you study, 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 you get these degrees. It is the norm to get paid this level amount, right? Which for both of us was under 50K, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Um, and so you and all of your colleagues are also getting paid the same amount. So what does that do? It normalizes it. I mean, it is the norm, literally,
Right.
right?
Right.
Only the
Absolutely.
ones that got really lucky were able to get into, like, in my field, it was like a prestigious counseling center where they were paying more than that. And again,
Okay.
they got
Mhm.
lucky, you know?
Right.
Um,
Absolutely.
for the for the most part, everybody else was underneath that 50K mark, or just
Mhm.
right there on that baseline, if that, right? And yeah, so it's like, you and all your colleagues are graduating and this is the norm, and we're happy and we're congratulating each other, but we're all stuck in debt from school. At least I was,
Yes.
right?
Mhm. Oh, same
Just
here.
trying to make ends meet, whatever. I was also a young adult, so that to me, I wasn't too fixated on the income piece and not knowing how little it was, to be frank, but
Right.
it was because it was normalized.
Yes. That is such a good point.
Something else that was normalized, in at least in my field, was burnout. Therapists were just known. It's like you're gonna see like 40 clients a week, but we love
Mm.
it. Like, it was
Yeah.
just like
Mhm.
the normal thing. I remember professors when getting my degree, not that they would hate it, but they spoke about it just so nonchalantly, how stressful it was to be a counselor, you
Yeah.
know? And
Trying to
I'm like,
prepare you.
yes. And I'm like, is nobody else seeing this? Like, and that's why I actually became a professor too, because I wanted to change that narrative.
Oh,
I
nice.
remember, yeah, I taught for maybe 4 or 5 years right after
Mm,
graduating,
cool.
and I loved it. I think I know when I retire, like for good, well, I don't know what retiring even would look like as an entrepreneur, but I always had it in my brain that like when I'm like in my 60s doing just something chill, I would love to teach at a
Mhm.
university again. Um,
Yes. That's awesome.
yeah. So anywho, yeah, I just remember like it again, this is the norm. And so talking to entrepreneurs as me coaching entrepreneurs, I've had, and I think we did speak about this before, but I've had so much more success coaching individuals who have a bachelor's or less, have an associate's, have no degree,
Mm-hmm.
versus those that are, I've had some PhD clients and I love
Oh,
them, and they've been the
hmm.
hardest ones to work with in terms of getting them out of that mindset that this is the way that it was supposed to go.
Right.
And
Hmm.
making much more money online is like unethical. They think it's unethical. They think that we're
Oh,
cheating to
okay.
something is wrong, this doesn't feel right. So it's a lot of
Mhm.
retraining and programming to see like this is what our world gets to be like in a
Right.
different avenue of getting there.
Yeah.
And that's been a very difficult reality that I've had to come across a lot of different entrepreneurs when coaching them within their businesses.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, lots of good points in that for sure. I do remember being in the counseling program, and of course, like a
Mm.
lot of our professors were PhDs and things,
Mhm.
PsyDs. Um, and that was kind of something that got brought up quite a few times is you're either a scholar and you go into research or you go
Oh
into the field.
yes.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they talk about that a lot, especially, of course, in the research class that we all have.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like you go one way or another, and that doesn't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily have to be the case. That doesn't, it's just normalized and it doesn't have to be. That is something that you can do, and love, and you can also go off and
Mm-hmm.
do other things too. But such a good point about normalizing the salary part of it, and the burnout part of it. Definitely, same
Mm-hmm.
here. That's all we talked about. And there would even be like moments where we would have to kind of vent and reflect on what we're going through at like internship, practicum, and those things
The
because,
stressors, yes.
yeah, they gave us space for that because it
Mm.
was just so normalized.
Mm-hmm.
And that's so interesting to me because to me, that just screams like psychology, and trying to keep things the way they are. And so
Yes,
when obviously
yes,
when anything is normalized, it's hard to go against the grain. And
absolutely.
do you think, you're different? You question yourself. You're like, is this really possible when everyone else is
Mm-hmm.
here and they're stable? That's that concept of stability, right? We can have that in entrepreneurship if we allow ourselves to, if we explore our
Mm-hmm.
ideas, and actually go for it. We can obviously get to that point where things are stable, but it's also fun and exciting. And I think a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times, especially in corporate America, it has to be one or the other,
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
healthcare. I should say healthcare too is a
Yes.
big one. It's one or the other. You either have 1,000 patients and totally burn out and kind of just stay there because you are stable,
Yeah.
or you go off and have a private practice and there's that sense I'm not going to be stable in that, and that's scary.
Hey, mamas, let me ask you this. Do you dream of starting your own business but feel overwhelmed by where to begin? You're not alone, and that's exactly why I created our free WhatsApp group, Balancing Business and Babies, a safe space for moms like you who are ready to take that first step towards entrepreneurship while balancing the beautiful chaos of motherhood. Inside, you'll find daily mindset shifts and tips, encouragement from women on the same journey, and bi weekly free community calls. Whether you are still in the dreaming phase or ready to take action, this group is here to support you every step of the way. And the best part? It's totally free. Just click the link in the show notes below to join. Mama, your dreams are very much possible, and you don't have to do it alone. Let's build your vision together, and I'll see you in the group inside. And then I also have come across a lot of mentalities where it's no one's ever going to be able to afford that.
Right.
Who would
Yeah.
actually pay for this out of pocket, right?
Right.
Um, I was
Hmm.
there too. I definitely
Oh
had
yeah.
that hurdle to have to get over when I first entered the online space of like, wait a second, I'm not going to be accepting insurance. I remember my first program, I think was $250 for a 4-week program. We met once a week. And that to me
Mhm.
seemed insanely astronomical. Like,
Yeah.
who in their right
Mhm.
mind would pay out of pocket to, because I was used to people having co-pays of no more than $40 for a session.
Right. Right.
And
Absolutely.
$40 for a copay was kind of pricey, right? It
Yeah.
was like you're better off at the 15, $20 mark. That's acceptable,
Right.
but like 40 is like, oh, you have bad insurance, you know?
Right. Yeah.
And so the idea of somebody paying me 250 for
Mhm.
a service like this was, and I remember teaching, well, I always teach about this experience too, because it was my mindset that also attracted people to also doubt the price, right?
Yes,
And
that's huge. Mindset's everything.
mindset is everything. And also, law of attraction, what you think is what you create, and that is what you
Yes.
attract,
Mhm.
right? And
Right.
so I remember having people on payment plans for 250,
Okay. Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Okay, because that's how insecure I was about it. I think I had somebody paying me like, I mean, what's 250 divided by 4? I don't know. I'm so bad at math. Pulling out my phone right now.
I'm trying to do it myself right now, but it's still
62,
early.
62, 62 $62.50. I
Yeah.
remember having payment plans around that area for
Yeah.
people that wanted to pay weekly instead of all at once. And
Mhm.
it's insane because now, as I continue to elevate in my entrepreneurship or my career online,
Mhm.
250 is not even close to what a down payment looks like these days, right?
Right.
And
Mhm.
so again, and nothing has changed. I'm still the therapist making online courses,
Right.
right? That has now become
Yeah.
a coach. I'm just simply more confident in my skill sets. I've also seen the results, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes.
And yeah, like 250 isn't even enough for a down payment these days, for
Right.
a coaching
Mhm.
program. And so
Oh, yeah.
it just goes to show again what is normalized. And I've shared this other viewpoint many times before in emails or maybe lives on Instagram. But when I first entered my first business mastermind, I had a colleague in the cohort that she was a very young girl. She was, I think, 19, 20, freshman, sophomore in college, taking this business course. I'm
Mm.
like, hey, go you.
Yeah. Impressive.
And she, very impressive. Listen to this. She was charging 8K a student for her courses for a 6-month course.
Whoa. Okay. That says confidence is everything. I mean, obviously, I'm sure she
Well,
had the skills and everything else, but she was able
well,
to do it.
to be fair, this is where people think that like let's see, this is the combo that I kind of wanted to get into. Okay, so this is where it can get kind of sketchy, right? Like, well, what is she charging for, right? And don't listen, this was my it was my second business course, so I was still new in the world of entrepreneurship. And I remember looking at her, and to be frank, I was triggered. I was like, what the F? How is this possible that at 20, I'm over here trying to pay off my student debt, getting my master's,
Mhm.
being professionally trained in trauma to help people, because hers was like a trauma course at that,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Getting trained to do these things for people, and I'm over here at a salary job at 48K, right? Like I was respectfully and healthily triggered by her. And I was angry. I was like, how is this even possible? What is going on here? And then coming to know her and her story, she was teaching from her experience, and she would always make it very, she had a traumatic upbringing,
Yeah.
and she would always lead that she does not have her master's, she's not a therapist. She would always make that very clear, but that her life
Mhm.
experiences have taught her so much. And then she's also taken courses on the side, so she had like certifications on the side but no formal degree. She didn't even have her
Mhm.
bachelor's yet, right? And but more so than that, she had the testimony. The people that she was helping
Yeah.
were truly becoming better versions of themselves, healing through her program. And I mean,
Yeah.
that's enough, right?
Mhm.
Um, when you look at a service, you're not looking always for degrees. Maybe it depends on what you're looking for, but the beginning level of marketing when you're being sold to is like, well, what can you get me? What's the end result?
Right.
Right? And if
Mhm.
she's able to help you heal through trauma, then,
Yeah. She's fully
you know,
capable. Yeah, it's working.
yes, it's
Absolutely.
working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I so much in what you said too. I just resonate with when I started my private practice just a few years ago. same kind of thing. I still had a limited license. I was 100% confident, honestly, in my skill set, just out of
Mm,
school. And I was charging, let me just say, a very low fraction of a cost for a session. And it was
mm,
working. I was getting myself clients, and I'm grateful for that, and I got the experience in. But that comes back to mindset. It comes back to I'm not extremely confident in myself just yet. So I feel like this is fair because nobody is going to pay me for this.
mm,
For a lack of skills that I thought I had. Um, Obviously, when you're doing it with somebody, when you're doing counseling with somebody, um, it's intense, and there's a lot of skills that are being used, and so you can quickly understand whether or not your service is valuable over time, and that confidence kind of built. But in the beginning, it was that lack of confidence that kept me there for a while, for sure.
mm, mhm,
And luckily it eventually built up. But I think that keeps a
mhm.
lot of people there. And that's amazing that she did that. Absolutely amazing. I'm sure it was very cathartic for her too to be able to help others
Mm,
after her
mhm,
experience. That sounds like a lot of money still to me. But
mhm,
hey,
mhm.
if she's healing people, I mean, what is the price tag that you can put on that? That's
Correct.
priceless to people.
Yeah,
So it's not even about the money to them, it's about healing. And
yeah.
that's incredible. And I think you also brought up a really good point that I think in this field, it is everything to have those personal experiences. It's
Mhm,
one thing to learn, about these things and theories in a textbook, and it's a totally different
mhm,
feeling to be sitting with someone knowing that you've had personal experiences and you got out of them, or you healed through them, or you use this coping skill, and you can help them do the same. And I
mhm,
think
mhm.
even in any kind of entrepreneurship, if you connect with it, your passion is going to come through, your confidence is going to come through, and the business is successful largely
Mhm,
because of that, right? Because you have a
mhm.
passion for it, and you know that things will work because you've been there.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying like you've,
Yeah.
you've owned a business, but there's some
Mhm.
part of you that has been there before that made you want to have this particular business, sell this product, have this service. And
Yes.
that's going to resonate with people. They're going to feel that.
Abs 1000%. I completely agree. I think you have to I feel honored that I love what I do. Um, and there's also like I'm also very aware that it doesn't have to be that way either. I think I'm lucky, blessed to be in a space where I love what I'm doing and I'm getting paid well
Yeah.
for it. Um,
Mhm.
and to your point, it began with just loving it because I wasn't getting paid well in the beginning. But it
Yeah.
didn't matter. But it didn't matter, to be frank. It didn't matter because I was new and I was just such like, curious and open-eyed and just like in awe of what this field could do. And I was loving it. So even before I had real knowledge that like, this isn't really great money, I was loving the experience, right?
Mhm.
And I think that's probably the same with a lot of our fields that were kind of on the lower end of things, but we had a passion for your literature, your editing, your helping, and your storytelling, and all of that. And um, both sides, right? You have to have. I
Mhm.
don't want to say you don't have to do anything. Everybody can have their own path, but it's what got us in. And
Mhm.
then luckily we were able to see that we wanted more and that we didn't have to just accept this as the norm.
Right.
Um, Something else that I wanted to say too. Oh, all of a lot of people when going into entrepreneurship will feel that they have to have extra degrees or certifications before they start, right? And I think what we've been talking about this whole time has just alluding to the fact that your life is your resume. All of the
Right.
random jobs that you did, all of my random customer service jobs, all of my random babysitting jobs, like it all
Mhm.
played a role in who I am
Yes.
today and the services that I provide and how I run my business and all of that,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
Oh my God, brain fart. Oh, sorry. That
Again, it's early.
part. So what I wanted to say with that is I also view this journey of entrepreneurship and just life in general, but this discovering of self, right? And I think that entrepreneurship is a really good avenue for that because there's so much reflection that has to be done with self to put yourself
Yeah.
out there, to choose a price point, to just try it and then hire it and then maybe lower it. Like all of that is so can be so gut-wrenching. Um, because to me, for with an entrepreneur with your own business, it's a part of you, right?
Right.
That
Oh
you're
yeah.
putting out there on display for others to see. And it's like, do you like it? Do you want to buy it? Like,
Yeah.
and kind of like, I've never been in the acting field, but I would imagine, right? I would
Mhm.
imagine that this is how models feel or actresses or actors feel if like I'm going out for a role. Yes, I'm acting, but it's my body. So if I get rejected, I kind of feel bad about that, you
Right.
know?
Yeah. Yeah, that was a good analogy for that for sure.
I would imagine, right? Again, I've never been
Mhm.
in the acting space, but I recently actually, well, we both know each other from The Blocks, right? That was the
Yeah.
show that we went on.
Mhm.
And so
Right.
that was my first experience being a part of anything like a production like that. And
Yeah.
as a therapist, my brain was, oh my God, buzzing because I was like, this is why Hollywood and this field is so they desperately need a counselor on set, right? Because of
Yes. Yeah, good
all
point.
the stress that comes up, like
Uh-huh.
you working 14-hour days, like it's normal. You're
Yeah.
naturally high off of like all the excitement and buzz and cameras and
Right.
meeting new
Mhm.
people and I would imagine that actors and actresses also love what they do and they have that passion and it's the norm
Mhm.
in that field to be overworked to that degree. And so it's like, hello, you're not sleeping, all the
Mhm.
stress, you got to memorize lines. Like you were bound to have some
Right.
mental health issues. Like,
Right. Absolutely. Uh-huh.
so anyway, I'm kind of going left, but yes, the concept that you don't have to have anything more than what you are to just start. Um,
Right.
clearly, I'm not opposed to higher education. I love learning. I even think I want to go back for my PhD soon. Literally, though, for
Me too.
fun.
Yeah, me
Yay,
too.
yeah.
I think
Yeah,
we
for
talked about how we both
fun.
love to learn last time. I
Yes,
love school. It's
yes.
a side note.
I love
I really
school.
do. I know it's not needed though. So to your point, yeah, go back
Correct.
for fun.
Go back for fun because to be
Start
frank, I
messy,
also
do your
know
thing, and
that.
then go back. Yeah.
Yes, because I also know that is it going to make me a shit ton more money? No, it's not.
Right.
Like
Right.
I
Mhm.
know that with my brand, if I add a PhD to it, sure, it's going to be so good for that. But had I
Mhm.
gone the traditional route and gotten my PhD, I mean, I guess it depends what you do with that, but it wasn't going to be an astronomical amount of money.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Nothing that I have seen and that I've experienced just in my 5 years of what is possible when you own your own business and how much money you can make there, right?
Right.
And
Right.
to not sound greedy, I was talking to my brother the other day of like entering this world of entrepreneurship and just being around other like-minded people, people that are ahead of me. You get to see what is possible in terms of income. And it's not just like a greedy thing. It's like, holy crap. Well,
Yeah.
if you have 20 employees, you're gonna need to make that much money, right?
Right. Hmm.
To pay everything
For
out. Like,
sure.
people think it's just like, oh my God, you're making all this money. It's like, well, I have to pay certain things out now. Like now I have
Yes.
more overhead costs, you know?
Right. It's not
And
about the gross income, it's about the net income. I think people forget that,
yes,
but there's a lot
yes,
of expenses
absolutely.
too. Yeah.
So many expenses that can come with it. But what I love is that in the beginning, it's just you and a computer. So
Yeah.
for the longest time in my business, I didn't have any overhead expenses, not until I
Mhm.
hired a team,
Right.
and it's amazing that I don't want to say one person because obviously when you have a team now it's a group effort but it was just one person's vision that kind of got
Mhm.
this thing off the ground and running and still
Mhm.
is the visionary for how it continues to expand. And
Right.
it's like, yeah, it's limitless the impact that you can have. And I see money as a source, as an engine to get us to where we're trying to get to. Like when I make more money, I'm thinking about, okay, great. Now I can have my clients have a better retreat experience. And now
Yeah.
my clients get to have better service, more support. It's like, yes,
Yes.
am I gaining a little bit of that money? You betcha, because I am being fueled to generate better ideas for the client experience, you
Yes.
know?
Mhm. For
Um,
sure.
so yeah, I view business very much spiritual. So this is my spiritual
Oh, yeah.
destiny, my path of
Mhm.
like what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm passionate about this. I buzz through
Yeah.
excitement about this. Um, And it's like, yeah, if you cherish a life like that, then your first step is to take that scary, ballsy action of saying, I'm gonna believe in myself and I'm gonna put myself out there and just see where it goes from there.
Right, absolutely. Um, you made a really good point in saying like it was just me and my computer at first, and
Mm-hmm.
then I hired a team, right? But you
Mm-hmm.
hired a team because you and your computer and your mind was successful, right? And so we can
Mm-hmm.
get to that
Mm-hmm.
point, but we have to have the confidence in ourselves, in our vision, to roll out our vision and see what sticks and what doesn't, and tweak it where it's needed, and kind of do all of that along the way, and then we'll get to that point. And by the time we're adding a team and we have a million referrals and all of these things, that's because our vision was successful. And that's what people,
Mm-hmm.
I think, need to hear is you have to have that
Mm-hmm.
level of trust in yourself, that this is going to happen. Yeah, you can get stuck in analysis paralysis and run a
Mm-hmm.
bunch of numbers over and over and over again. But at some point, you have to start. And that's why I love
Yeah.
that. Start now, start messy, just start, because you're never going to know,
Mm-hmm.
too, if things are going to go exactly the way that you envision them in your mind until you get started and you're actually in
Yeah.
it. And then oftentimes, yeah, we might have to switch directions a few times. That's
A
just
lot of times.
right, right. I mean, look
Yeah.
in our personal lives, how many times,
Yes.
most of us have to switch directions. So that's just
Mm-hmm.
an aspect of life, and change can be scary. But we're never going to know whether or not the idea in our mind is going to be successful. And we're going to get to that point unless we just get started. Jump right over,
Yes.
not in a bad way.
Yes.
That was kind of a bad analogy, but yeah. Um,
Not at
I want to
all.
say,
I Go ahead.
oh, I wanted to say just a quick side note, and I don't mean to dog entertainment, but I was in entertainment for a year and a half, and I definitely don't want to say like
Oh,
anything too negative about it. I'm still kind of in it, but that is the norm. It's not only
I
like it's
bet.
constantly fight or flight, because you'll have a client
Mm-hmm.
reach out and want to have background like right now, and we have to call people up to go be
Mm-hmm.
background like right now, like drop everything you're doing, go work for the
Mm-hmm.
next 10 to 14 hours or longer on set. Maybe you get paid, maybe you don't as background, but
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna see your face like wherever the medium is, right? In film and TV and a commercial.
Yes.
And so they get excited, and it's kind of, I've realized a lot of that part of entertainment is really just kind of playing on people's emotional excitement to be involved in something.
Yeah.
But I want to say that as a side note that yes, I've been in it, and it, as far as like
Mm.
acting and modeling, it doesn't always pay the best, but it's kind of playing on that part of it is somebody will
Mm.
feel like they are successful in and of themselves because they made it, quote unquote made it.
Yes.
Um, and
Mm. Oh,
it's a
that's
different,
juicy.
yeah, 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 yeah. It's
I,
kind of a different
I,
animal for sure.
okay, okay. We're gonna talk about it because I am so I got so intrigued. So being on the set of the blogs for let me just remind our audience, we went on a reality TV show about entrepreneurship. It was competitive style and it was like maybe 6 days or so, and it was kind of like mastermind, if you may, where we were learning a whole bunch of stuff
Mhm.
and we were expected to kind of regurgitate it. And that was the competition form of it. I learned so much, was very
Oh,
grateful
me
for
too.
all the connections.
Mhm.
And it was cool to be in the experience of being filmed and all of that. And of course, I did it for
Yeah,
branding and, to get my name out there more. And it was a
right.
win-win on so many factors, right?
Absolutely.
Um, so the world of media. So I have again, I think that my life, everyone's life, if you choose to see it this way, is very spiritual in a sense of not religion based, but an energy, right?
Yeah.
Like certain
Mhm.
experiences I think is like a remembrance for me of like, I think I would like this space.
Yeah.
I think I would like to be in this space. And me doing a lot of self-reflection, and it's okay if it was like partly ego. It would be cool to be seen on media more
Mhm.
often, right? And that's
Yeah.
fine.
Mhm.
Also, my dad, his whole entrepreneurial journey, a large part of it was media for him too. He was a
Okay.
radio, not announcer, but he would create commercials for radio stations and they would get
Oh,
aired
cool.
and stuff like that. So he would like
Yeah.
back in the day, I don't know if it works this way anymore, but like he would buy airtime from certain radio stations, and then his own
Mhm.
entrepreneurial job was to go to businesses and say, "Hey, I have a minute at 4 p.m. Would you like your commercial to be in the slot?" kind of thing. And then he would create the
Yeah.
commercial for them, and then, so on and so
Oh,
forth. And super cool. Very, I don't know if it's different, but I mean, that's the only experience I've had with that world through my father, right? And so then going, to the show, it was so intense. It was so intense.
yeah.
And again, my brain started wiring
Very
like, okay,
intense.
people need therapists, over here. And then it
Mhm.
was like my heart was like, I would love to be in this type of environment, even though it's chaotic, even though it's stressful. Then,
Yeah.
I had to do some self-reflection. I'm like, what parts of me want this chaos in my life again?
Yeah.
Like I'm in a space where
Mhm.
I'm this my life, and my
Right.
business is very nice and flowy, and I'm home in my in my sweats making money, like
Right.
why why would I want to enter something like this again? But what I've learned in my life is that I don't have to question it. I just know that I'm supposed to be there.
Yeah.
Um,
I
and
love that.
so, and I very much want to, and I'm also, I guess a little bit more as I grow, a little bit more emotionally mature, where it's like back
Mhm.
then I would have just jumped right then and there. And don't get me wrong,
Right.
I definitely try to a little bit, like try to get myself
Mhm.
in there.
Yeah.
Um, but for me right now, and this is also, the season about mothers and business, I'm empoweredly choose. It's not even a word. I'm empowerfully choosing
Yes.
to, choose my children and my family at this time, knowing that
Yeah.
traveling a lot wouldn't be the best right now.
Right.
I have a good thing going. I built my business. This is almost year 5 for me, right? My kiddos are 3 and 2. They're really little. They're not
Oh,
even in
yeah, they're
school yet.
busy. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm super busy, right? And I literally just changed my whole lifestyle to be there more for the kiddos all day. And so, while
Mhm.
still running my company, which again, I feel very blessed to be able to do that. It was just an idea and now it's happening, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Um, and so, yeah, I just know in my heart that when I talk about like manifestation, and it's a lot about the feeling that it's already happening. And when I was there filming, I was like, oh my God, I know without a shadow of a doubt, I want to be in these spaces again.
Mhm.
And so I just know that it's like it's coming. It's just going to be probably in a couple of years.
Right.
But it's there. It's very much there. It's
Mhm.
very much exciting, and it's like I have so much trust in myself and in my
Mhm.
destined path, if you may, right? That it's
Yeah.
what's meant to be is going to happen. I just have to keep saying yes. Keep saying yes,
Yes.
right? And knowing that like
Manifestation.
manifestation, yes, keep saying
Yeah.
yes. And like I'm not saying no forever. It's just like maybe not right now. But if an
Yes.
opportunity came my way, I'm just going to see what that is. And it's not how do I say this? I was talking to a mom the other day about having more kids. Um, I know without a shadow of a doubt I want a third, right? Um,
Mhm.
my
Aw.
husband also, yeah, my husband also has a vasectomy. And so she
Mm.
kept asking me, she's more on the logical side of things. And she's like, well, when do you think that you would get that reversed? And planning. This is the anxiety, planning,
Yes.
planning, planning. And I'm like,
Yes.
I don't really know. So I was like, I don't really know,
Mhm.
and I'm not really stressing it or pressing it. I just know that
Mhm.
it's probably going to happen, whether it's an oh my God, you're one of the few that got pregnant with a vasectomy, or
Right.
we decide to take it out one day or reverse it, whatever. I just know that it's going to happen, and I don't have to stress myself out figuring out how it's going to happen. I just
Right.
feel that it is, and that's
Mhm.
enough for right
Yeah.
now.
Right. 100%. Yeah. You have me smiling so big because I'm realizing how similar we are. Like so similar.
That's why I wanted to have a part 2 with you.
I
Yes.
love it. I love it because before you were talking about going into professorship, and that's a goal of mine too, to go there.
Mm.
Um, Back in the day, I tried to get into acting and modeling. That was kind of my thing when I was like 14 or 15.
Mm.
And I 1000% agree with you that it's about that trust in yourself, the confidence that comes along with that, and just kind of
Mm.
accepting that we can't plan everything down to, the nitty gritty details all the time, especially when it comes to the
Mhm.
future. So
Mhm.
it's you have to have a certain level of trust for yourself, and that gets way easier too if you take that leap of faith and things pan out for you, right? That's
Mhm.
exciting. That's that exciting moment of putting your creative, innovative idea out there for the world, biting your nails. Are they going to like it? And then it takes off.
Mm-hmm.
And then, it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like everything's uphill from there.
Mm-hmm.
But if we try to plan every detail, that is more fear-based, that's anxiety-based.
Yes.
And mindset is everything. Like we just talked about, it's
Mm-hmm.
everything. We have to believe that things are going to happen. That's part of manifestation, is having that belief, right? And I love that you said spirituality too, because that is a huge cornerstone of everything I do too. I feel like you can't, and maybe it's just, me, but you can't be passionate about something without spirituality being infused in it. And
Mm-hmm.
that is, and also can't trust yourself without some level of faith. And so I think
Mm-hmm.
that's a huge part of it, is just connecting with that. A lot of things that we are passionate about they walk hand in hand with spirituality, because
Mm-hmm.
it's our belief
Mm-hmm.
system, and
Mm-hmm.
we're passionate in a lot of things within that. So I just absolutely love that. You have me smiling every time you talk.
Oh, I love that.
It's so true. But people, like you said before, want to, and there's just this level of expectation to get all of these certifications, even if we don't
Mm-hmm.
have like the credentials in healthcare, but that's also relevant. But like
Mm-hmm.
certifications, I need to be certified in project management. I need to be certified in this and
Mm-hmm.
that. I have to go to Toastmasters to learn how to be a public speaker so that I can be a good leader. And that's not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily the case. You're going to get stuck there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're not going to have
Mm-hmm.
anything to show for it. Yeah, you're going to have a piece of paper and some good experiences, which
Mm-hmm.
experiences are
Mm-hmm.
everything.
Mm-hmm.
But it still doesn't move you forward in your career. And so that
Mm-hmm.
trust and that confidence in yourself, and just trying and being messy and going back to the drawing board time and again until you get it right, is what needs to
Mm-hmm.
happen, so that you can feel like, okay, this is going to work, and it is working. And what's
Mm-hmm.
next? Basically,
Mm-hmm.
this is working
Mm-hmm.
great. Like, cool. Now I want to do this because I made this work. I can make that work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. I've absolutely loved this conversation yet again. I think we do have so many similarities. I love that I have randomly and also not coincidentally met you, have gotten to know
Yeah.
you. Again, for
Mhm.
those that don't know, right? Like this is Sarah and I's second time speaking ever.
Yes. Yeah. I feel like we've been
And
going forever.
literally, I'm looking at the clock and I'm like, I could talk for another half hour, but we
Yeah.
have to close soon. But I think this is the beauty of life, of just letting it take you. And yes, when you're planning something, like just have the big goal, have a loose guideline. Just know that it gets to be flexible and you don't have to go that route. See, have the intention, plant the seed is what I always say when it comes to manifesting, and see where life takes you. Like if the energy is strong enough where it's like, oh my God, I'm so excited for this thing that's going to happen. I don't know how, but it's going to. It's
Yeah.
like the universe will make it work for you.
Yeah.
Um,
It's that
just
feeling that we
trust,
can't really, describe,
shake.
but everybody
Yes.
feels it. And if they allow themselves to feel it, and when you have that feeling, it's
Yes.
like that means that it's going to work out. That means it's going to happen at
Hmm.
some point, like you said. So trust that gut instinct, trust that feeling, that intuition.
Yes. Yes. I think that is a perfect way to close the episode. Faith over fear.
Absolutely. Yes, I love that
Yeah.
saying. And I have it like everywhere in my office. So I
Mm.
love it. It's so true. So true.
Yes, yes. All right, girly, this was amazing. Thank you for coming on for a second time. I think it was
Yeah.
highly necessary. It was cathartic for me, I hope, and I know that our
Oh,
listeners will also feel the same way. Um,
awesome. Thank you
any
for
last
having me.
statements before? Absolutely. Any last statements before we close, and a reminder of how they can find you?
So last statements again, just trust in yourself. Build that trust any way you can. Connect with that spiritual side of yourself. Um,
Mhm.
have faith in your passions, and just get started. You might not have everything worked out. You might not have all of the answers, but you got to get started at some point, right? And then as
Mhm.
you're seeing things in action, it's going to motivate you and have more confidence in yourself along the way. And so, it's going to happen if you want it to happen and you manifest it happening. And I think that's about it. I just want to drive that
Yeah.
point home. So people can find me. I'm the owner of 3Cs Center.com, and that's the number 3CS Center.com. You can find me on Facebook, the Counseling Center. You can find the Counseling Center on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. Please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn if you want to further this conversation, or have any questions. I'm on there all the time, and I've made some amazing connections there. So I'd love to learn more about the listeners too, and see what they have to say. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
Beautiful. Thank you, Sara.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. All right, you guys. Bye for now. Thank you for joining me today on Mindset Mastery Podcast. I hope today's conversation inspired you to embrace your own journey of balancing motherhood and entrepreneurship. Remember, it's all about mastering your mindset to create a life of success and fulfillment in both areas. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, share it with a friend, and leave a review. Your support helps us reach more incredible moms just like you. Until next time, keep showing up, keep growing, and mastering your mindset.